In the late 1960s, there were 4 mills on Victoria Street, Chadderton. The Falcon and the Hawthorn, built in 1885 and 1887 respectively, were seniors compared to the Manor and the Kent mills built in 1906 and 1908. These young sisters never seemed to age. Their Accrington bricks and stone trimmings always washed clean in the rain and still look new some 60 years later. Inside, concrete and fireproof floors helped to bear the weight of the structure and heavy machinery. When the children from Eustace Street and St Mark's schools ventured into the derelict Hawthorn in 1970 without permission, they didn't see such modernity, but they wondered at the old brick-arched ceilings, black cast-iron stanchions, and the obsolete gas lamps on the flaking plaster walls. The Falcon was different again, a single-storey weaving shed whose northern lights glazed roof allowed light throughout the day, and had been used for the manufacture of velvet until the late 1950s. Edith had worked in all 4 of the mills at some point in her life, but left spinning cotton behind when she went to work as a cook in the Falcon canteen. It was cordoned off with a high partition at the back of the warehouse after the mill had been split into units. The Falcon ghost, who for some reason went by the name of Charlie, was talked about regularly, and it was commonly accepted that some operatives avoided a certain aisle in the warehouse. Management had to send those who weren't afraid if anything needed to be picked from the racking there. One day, Edith and her colleague Alice had stayed to provide a late meal for returning drivers who had been out on the road all day. Edith's cheese and onion pie was in the oven as she peeled potatoes, ready to put the chips on at a moment's notice. Alice was mopping the canteen floor on the other side of the long counter, and they chatted as they worked. Edith suddenly noticed that she was talking to herself and wondered why. Alice wasn't replying. "Alice?" she shouted, but nothing came back. She put down her knife, wiped her hands on her pinny, and stuck her head over the counter to see where Alice had gone. Alice had her back to Edith and seemed to be frozen to the spot, clinging on to the mop handle for dear life. "Are you all right?" she asked. After a few seconds, Edith went down the step from the kitchen and approached her. "Alice," she said calmly, and touched her arm. She was tight-tongued with shock, in a trance, and white as a sheet. "Alice," Edith said again, shaking her gently by the elbow. She managed to speak, if shakily. "I've seen Charlie over there." Edith, quite puzzled, looked over at a blank white wall and said, "Are you sure?" Alice nodded. "Come and sit down, love, and I'll make you some tea," she said, leading her to one of the many tables. Edith put plenty of sugar in the tea and went to sit with her still shaken friend. "Are you sure you didn't see a shadow out of the side of your glasses, Alice? Do you think you could be mistaken?" "No," said Alice. "No," she replied with absolute certainty. "It was a mist, and a fellow in black in the middle of it, over there by the pool table." Jack was the first driver to come back in a few minutes later, and seeing Alice pale and sipping tea, said, "What's up?" "She's seen Charlie standing over there by the wall," said Edith. "Oh, right," said Jack knowingly, as if it was an everyday occurrence, and he sat down with Alice and tried to persuade her. "Hey, Alice, that Charlie, he's nothing to be frightened of." Alice didn't reply, and there seemed to be no change in her mind. Soon after, she put on her coat, picked up her bag, and told them that she was never coming back. In the days after, her colleagues called on Alice at her house to see if she'd changed her mind, but she hadn't, and Alice chose to find another job, too unnerved to venture into the Falcon again. A couple of weeks later, Edith was in the kitchen on her own and was preparing to make some cakes. She placed a bag of sugar on the wide counter and went to get other ingredients from the fridge. As she turned around, she saw a 2-pound bag of sugar topple over and slowly roll onto the floor. Edith shook her head and said loudly, "Bugger off, Charlie. I've enough to do without you messing." She went down the step into the canteen, picked up the sugar and carried on. Edith, my mother, who feared little in this life and the next.
Why not like, subscribe, share and comment, especially if you have any stories from the surrounding area. Contact details are in the description below.